All right, let's step back in time a little bit. It is the middle of June 2020. I am lying in bed early in the morning and I'm scrolling on my phone like I do every single day, and I feel hopeless. I'm quarantined away from all of my friends. I'm in the house almost all the time, and every day looks pretty much the same. I wake up, scroll, log into work, eat, scroll, go for a walk, and listen to true crime. And then I shower and I scroll some more until I fall asleep. And every day, the death toll from COVID is climbing, and I'm scared for my life and for the lives of everybody that I love. And the news just keeps telling me that it's going to get worse. And my feed is full of people saying that their loved ones caught it. My friends in healthcare are telling me that their patients are dying every single day. And there's police brutality on top of all of it. I cannot even picture what life is going to look like 3 months from now. And every conversation that I'm having, it feels so heavy. And I don't feel like I have an ounce of joy left in me. And I remember lying there that morning thinking, something has to change. Hello, my powerful people. This is the Info Power Podcast, and I'm your host, Jasmine Conway. Now, maybe that's not your exact story, but I bet you know the feeling. You get to the end of an ordinary day and you just feel heavier than you should be. Like nothing went wrong during the day. You didn't get any bad news, but maybe it was the headlines that you read while drinking coffee, or maybe it was a show that you watched or a conversation that you just couldn't stop thinking about. You couldn't necessarily point to one big reason. You just know that you feel more anxious, more behind, or more afraid that everything's falling apart. And hear me out. That does not mean that something is wrong with you. So if any of that lands with you, stay with me because today's episode is for you. Because here's the whole point. It runs the other way too. Some days you leave a good conversation standing a little bit taller, and a song comes on and your mood lifts, or you read something that reminds you that people are still good and the world feels lighter than it did an hour ago. And it's the same you and it's the same day. It's just different things are coming on and impacting you. So, what you watch, what you read, what you listen to, the people that you spend your time around, all of that, all of it is doing something to you. And it's not necessarily one massive thing. Sometimes it's 1,000 small things. And a lot of us go years without taking an opportunity to just stop and notice which direction we're getting pulled in. And back in 2020, I wasn't noticing it all. Like I wasn't noticing everything. I just knew that I felt awful and I couldn't tell you why. But the moment that I started paying attention to what I was actually letting in every single day, I knew I had to take my power back. So, let me tell you a story. And you might have heard a version of this before, but stay with me because this is the story that really explained to me what had been happening in my world. So, years ago, a grandfather and his grandson were sitting outside after dinner and they were watching the sun go down. And the grandfather said, inside every person, there are two wolves and they are always fighting. And the little boy, he looks up and asks, what are they fighting about? And the grandfather says, one wolf is fear, anger, envy, bitterness, pride, anxiety. And the other wolf is hope, kindness, curiosity, peace, gratitude, joy, and love. And that little boy, he thinks about it for a second and he asks the question that most of us would probably ask. Grandfather, which wolf wins? And the old man just says, the one you feed. Now, whether that conversation ever happened exactly like that, I couldn't tell you. But you don't need it to be a true story to know that it is telling the truth. Because here's the part that I want to add. I think that if the grandfather were around today, he'd probably lean in and say one more thing. He say, baby, be careful who you let feed your wolves. Because y'all, today, somebody is always trying to feed them every headline, every notification, every podcast, every commercial, every recommendation that comes up from your algorithm, every group chat, every conversation with that one coworker who always has something negative to say, every influencer that is trying to convince you that your life isn't enough. They are all feeding you something. So the question is not whether your wolves are getting fed. They are. I'm telling you, they are. The real question is, who has been holding the bowl? There is a phrase that I keep coming back to lately: stewardship of the mind. Now, when we hear stewardship, most of us think about money, managing what we've been trusted with, using it wisely, protecting it, growing it. Some of us think about it with our bodies too: sleep, movement, eating in a way that helps us feel good. But we don't talk enough about stewardship of the mind. And here's the thing: your mind is where you live your entire life. Every relationship, every opportunity, every disappointment, every dream, it all passes through your mind first. If your mind is flooded with fear all day long, you experience your life one way. If it's flooded with comparison, you experience it another way. If it's flooded with hope, you experience it another way entirely. So the quality of your life is not just about what happens to you. It is shaped every single day by what you keep feeding your mind. And let me tell you something that should honestly make all of us sit up a little bit. Companies are spending billions of dollars every single year competing for one thing, and that is your attention. Some of the smartest people alive, marketers, engineers, designers, people who study human behavior for a living, they are employed because your attention is worth money. Entire industries exist because of this. So, if all of these brilliant people already understand that your attention is valuable, why don't we? We guard our bank accounts, we lock our cars, we protect our homes, but our attention, we hand it over to whoever asks for it first. Now, I want to be clear. This is not a social media episode, because social media is just one place that your attention goes. It also goes to the news that you take in, the podcasts that you play, the books that you read, the shows that you binge watch, the conversations that you participate in, and the people that you spend the most time with. It it even goes to the stories that you replay in your head at 2 o'clock in the morning. And not all of it is bad for you, but all of it is doing something. Everything is shaping something. Everything is feeding a wolf. And I'm sure you felt this before. You read these alarming headlines for 30 minutes before work, and suddenly the whole future of the world feels terrifying. And listen, I do it too. Not too long ago, I actually picked up my phone to check something about the podcast. And 40 minutes later, I had scrolled past, all these other creators with huge numbers or better lighting. And I sat my phone down feeling like somehow I was behind in a race that I chose to run. And nothing about my actual work had changed in those 40 minutes. The only thing that changed was what I had been staring at. The only thing that changed was where my attention was pointed. If you spend an evening around people who pick everybody apart, and by dessert, you might notice that you're picking everybody apart too, instead of noticing the best in everyone. And this is not something that happens because there's something wrong with you. No, it happens because your brain is paying attention. And whatever your brain keeps paying attention to, it starts treating it as important, and it starts scanning the world for more of it. If you feed it story after story about betrayal, you're going to start looking out for betrayal. And if you feed it scarcity, you're going to start bracing yourself for scarcity. Not because that's all that's out there, but because that's what you've trained yourself to notice. And there's a whole reason why the brain does this, and it goes back way further than our phones do. Picture two of your ancestors walking through very tall grass, and the grass rustles. One of them thinks it's probably just the wind and keeps walking, and the other one thinks that could be something that wants to eat me, and they freeze. Now, 9 times out of 10, it really is just the wind. But the calm one only has to be wrong one time, and it is a horrible situation. And the nervous one, the one who's alert, is the one who lives long enough to have children. So you and I, we are the descendants of the ones who assumed the worst. Our brains are literally built to grab onto a threat tighter than it grabs onto good news. So hear me, that heaviness is not a flaw in you. That is old survival software, and it just still is running in a world of push notifications. But here's what that means for our story. It means the bad wolf was born a little bit stronger. It got a head start. And that right there is exactly why feeding the other wolf can't be something that you just hope happens. It has to be done on purpose. Now, hear me clearly, because I don't want you to walk away with the wrong thing. I'm not telling you to become uninformed. I'm not telling you to ignore what's hard in the world or pretend that painful stuff doesn't exist. I pay attention to what's happening too. I worry about the future too. Those things are real, but there's a difference between being informed and being immersed. There's a difference between understanding reality and marinating in fear. Because here's what I've noticed: fear does not need your help spreading. Bad news already has a phenomenal marketing team. Hope, though, hope is not sending you push notifications. Kindness is rarely interrupting your day. Ordinary people living good, meaningful lives is not something that usually makes the headlines. So if you want those things to have a voice in your life, most of the time you have to seek them out on purpose. So here's the idea that I want to hand you. Don't just try to avoid feeding the bad wolf. Go the other way too. Feed the wolf you need. We spend so much time asking, what do I feel like watching? Or what do I feel like listening to? And I want you to start asking a different question. What does my mind actually need today? And y'all, those are not the same question. If you have started to believe that there are no good people left, feed the wolf you need. Go watch the video of strangers helping strangers. Read the stories about a whole community showing up for one family. Remind yourself that kindness is still out there, because it is. If you have started to believe that there's no opportunity left for you, feed the wolf you need. Listen to people building things. Learn from people who made a pivot at 40, 50, 60. You are not doing it to copy their exact path, but you're doing it to remember that possibility is still on the table for you. And if you're just plain exhausted, maybe you don't need another productivity podcast telling you to optimize your morning. Maybe you need something that reminds you why your work is important. Maybe you need to laugh. Maybe you need beauty. Maybe you need rest. Feed the wolf you need. But I got to be honest with you, because I don't want to hand you something that sounds pretty and then just falls apart the second that you try to do something with it. There is a trap in what I just said, because feed the wolf you need can quietly turn into this only ever show myself the version of the world that I wish were true. And that's not stewardship. Feeding hope is not the same thing as pretending. If you only ever consume the comfortable thing, you're not necessarily protecting your mind. You might be numbing it. Real stewardship is not believing that the world is only good. Real stewardship is being able to hold both, to look at something hard clearly and still choose on purpose not to drown in it. So the goal is not a mind that never sees anything painful, because that's not realistic. That's not life. The goal is a mind that you are actually steering. There's a difference between I'm choosing not to marinate in this today and I refuse to know this exists. One is wisdom, and the other one looks a little bit more like avoidance. But you get to be honest with yourself about which one you're doing. So, let me give you an example from my own life because I try not to coach on anything that I'm not actually living. So, I am a deeply sensitive person, and honestly, I love that about myself. It is one of the reasons that I connect so deeply with people. It's one of the reasons that I care as much as I do about this work. But I've also learned that my sensitivity requires stewardship. There is certain content that hits me differently than it hits other people. I know I don't do well with movies where one of the main characters dies. Like, I know I can't binge true crime all day long, even though I find it genuinely fascinating because I know what it feeds in me. It feeds hypervigilance. It feeds a fear that, trust me, it does not need any more encouragement. That doesn't mean that nobody should watch true crime. It just means that I know myself. And that's the whole thing. Stewardship asks, what is this feeding in me? Not what is everybody else doing? Not what am I supposed to be like? Or what am I supposed to like? It's just what happens to me after I take this in? And that's a completely different question. And it is yours to ask. Okay. So I want to leave you with a picture. Imagine someone walked into your home every single morning and they chose every book on your shelves. They picked the music in every room. They decided what played on your TV. They ran every conversation at your dinner table. They hung every picture on your walls. You would never allow that. You'd have them out the door in about 3 seconds. So, why do we let strangers decorate our minds all day? Why do we hand algorithms, advertisers, and people who profit off of keeping us afraid? Why are we handing them the keys to what lives in our heads? Your mind deserves better stewardship than that. And you get to be the one who gives it. Operating in full power means you take responsibility for what you let in, not in this scared or rigid way where you are afraid to read any headlines, but in a grounded, grown way where you already know that you are the one who decides what gets access to you and what gets access to your mind. It means that you stop treating your attention like it's free because it's not, and you start treating it like the valuable thing that everybody else already knows it is. You deserve a mind that you are actually stewarding, and you owe it to yourself to be the one holding the bowl. So, here's your power practice for the week because you know I love to leave you with a power practice. It's simple, and we're going to call it the after check. So, for the next 7 days, do one thing. Just notice how you feel after. That's the whole practice. After the scroll, after the show, after the group chat, after the podcast, including this one, you just run the after check and you ask yourself, did that leave me feeling more hopeful or more hollow? More curious or more critical? And you're not judging yourself. You're just gathering information about what your inputs are actually doing to you. And then one time this week, when the after check tells you something is feeding the wrong wolf, I want you to feed the other wolf on purpose. Close the thing that's making you cynical, that doesn't make you feel good, and put on something that reminds you that people are still good, that makes you feel good. Just do this once and see what it does. And I'm telling you, that one small choice is stewardship in action. So before I let you go, let me go back to that girl, myself, lying in bed in June of 2020, because she didn't get out of that stretch by waiting for the world to calm down. The world, in fact, never calmed down. But what changed was that she finally started paying attention to what she was letting in every day. And she started slowly feeding a different wolf on purpose. That's the whole thing. Not a perfect life, not a perfect feed, just one person deciding to be the steward of her own mind instead of handing that job over. And you get to make that same decision today, my powerful person. So for this week, pay attention to your attention. Treat it like it's valuable because it is. Spend it like it matters because it does. And if you're going to feed a wolf, feed the one you need. Stay powerful. If this resonated with you, share it with another powerful person who needs to hear it. I'm Jasmine Conway. This is the Info Power Podcast. I'll talk to you next time.